Adrian and I met on a warm evening in June, under a sky painted with hues of pink and orange. It was at a mutual friend's rooftop gathering, a casual affair with wine, soft music, and the kind of laughter that seems to echo in the summer air. Adrian stood out immediately. He was tall, confident, and had an energy about him that pulled people in. He had this ability to make you feel like the only person in the room, and that night, his attention was entirely on me. We clicked instantly. I was drawn to his charm, his intelligence, and the way he seemed so sure of himself. Over the weeks that followed, we became inseparable. Our dates were the kind you only see in movies: long drives, late-night talks under the stars, and shared dreams about the future. At least, I thought we were dreaming together. By the time we reached our second anniversary, I was convinced he was the one. Sure, there were red flags I ignored, like how he avoided serious conversations about commitment or brushed off questions about marriage with jokes. But I told myself that it was just his way of avoiding pressure. He loves me, I thought. That's all that matters. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but it wasn't entirely unexpected either. I'd always been meticulous about contraception, but life has a way of throwing curveballs. I remember the moment I realized I might be pregnant. It was a Monday morning, and I was running late for work. As I sipped my coffee, the smell, something I usually loved, turned my stomach. A wave of nausea hit me so hard that I had to sit down. That was the first clue. 2 days and 3 pregnancy tests later, I was staring at undeniable evidence. 2 pink lines on each test. I was pregnant. My initial reaction was a mix of shock and quiet excitement. I hadn't planned for this, but the idea of a tiny life growing inside me felt magical. I imagined holding my baby for the first time, their tiny fingers wrapping around mine. I imagined Adrian's face lighting up when I told him how he'd scoop me into his arms and promise we'd figure it out together. But Adrian's reaction shattered every one of those fantasies. I waited for the perfect moment to tell him. It was a Friday night, and we had just finished dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, when I turned to him and said, "Adrian, there's something I need to tell you." His eyes flickered with curiosity, but as I uttered the words, "I'm pregnant," his expression changed. First, there was surprise, then confusion, and finally something that looked a lot like dread. He didn't say anything at first. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. When he finally spoke, his words were cold and calculated. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. He ran his hands through his hair, leaning back on the couch. This wasn't part of the plan," he said, more to himself than to me. I felt my heart sink. "What plan, Adrian? We're in this together. We love each other. We can make this work." But he shook his head. "Do we even know what we're doing? I mean, we're not married. We're not even financially ready for something like this." His words felt like a slap in the face. I had always believed that love was enough to conquer anything. But as the conversation unfolded, it became painfully clear that Adrian didn't feel the same way. The days that followed were some of the darkest of my life. Adrian became distant, avoiding me and sidestepping any discussions about the pregnancy. When we did talk, his arguments were always the same. We weren't ready. He didn't want this right now, and most devastatingly, he wasn't sure he wanted it ever. I tried everything, reasoning with him, giving him space, even proposing compromises. But nothing worked. Every conversation left me feeling more alone. One night, after another heated argument, I asked him the question that had been haunting me. "If I keep this baby, will you stay?" His response was cold and final. "I can't promise that." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I thought about my baby, about the life I wanted to give them, and about the kind of partner I needed Adrian to be. I thought about the kind of love and stability a child deserves, and whether I could provide that alone. I realized I was at a crossroads. Keeping the baby meant committing to a life where I'd be a single mother, where my child might grow up knowing their father didn't want them. It also meant tethering myself to a man who had shown me he wasn't capable of the kind of love and commitment I needed. The next morning, I made the hardest decision of my life. I called a clinic and scheduled an appointment. Adrian didn't come with me. He didn't even ask how I was feeling. The night before the procedure, he texted me, "I hope this is the right choice for you." The emptiness in his words broke me. The weeks after the abortion were a blur of pain and self-reflection. I ended things with Adrian shortly after. Staying with him would have been a constant reminder of what I'd lost, of the life I had let go of for someone who didn't deserve me. Therapy became my lifeline. I spent months unpacking my feelings, processing my grief, and learning to forgive myself. I also started rebuilding my life, focusing on my career, my friends, and most importantly, myself. It's been a year now. I've learned to find peace in my decision, even if the pain of it never fully goes away. I've also learned what I want in a partner and in a life. I share my story not to seek validation, but to help others who might be walking a similar path. Life is messy and complicated, and sometimes we're forced to make choices that don't have a right answer. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: you have to choose yourself. Always. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. Life isn't always easy, and sometimes the hardest choices lead to the biggest lessons. If you've ever been in a situation like this or want a safe space to share your thoughts, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your perspective and connect with you. Don't forget to like this video if it resonates with you, and subscribe to Confess and Connect for more stories that dive deep into the realities of life, love, and the choices we make. Together, we can build a community where we support and learn from each other. Thank you for watching, and remember, you're never alone. See you in the next video.